Okay, everybody, let's go. We're gonna react to how to survive a war.
Have a lot of luck, fate, or whatever else you want to call it. Considering how to survive in war, the first step, have a lot of luck, fate, or whatever else you want to call it. Considering
That's wrong. Get in cover.
that a rifle 200 meters away only has to move a couple millimeters in order to shoot either on the ground or in your head makes it that survival in war oftentimes comes down to luck. But besides that, there's a lot you can do to mitigate death or injury on the battlefield. So the first threat is small arms. So you're going to wear your plate armor on your vest, which is front, back, hopefully sides as well. And while you're wearing this armor, you're going to face the enemy as you
First of all, always be in cover.
shoot. That way you're not tilted towards the enemy, you expose your side, and you can get shot in the heart still. So anytime we train to face the enemy as we fire. The next one is going into prone. Going into prone is going to fix most of your problems. It's only the width and height of your head that should be exposed to the enemy. Whereas if you're standing, you're a bigger target. This should be obvious, but it's much more difficult even for a sniper to hit a target that's just this small. Finding cover. This is incredibly important. We've all played FPSs. Find yourself a piece of cover. Make sure that during patrols, if you're expecting an attack, you know exactly where you're going to go if the first shot rings out right then. And sometimes that cover is going to be micro-terrain. Micro-terrain is this miniature divots in the ground. It's something that you can often only see when you lay down. As soon as you hit the dirt, even in an open field like Ukraine, you're going to find a lot of cover, whether it's just an inch or two of ground. It's especially important when it comes to explosives, which we're getting into next. The last point is suppression. Before you go to cover, we are trained RTR, return fire, take cover, return accurate fire. The return fire portion is not meant to hit the enemy, it is meant to suppress. And when you suppress the enemy, they're going to put their heads down, sometimes, and they're just overall going to be less accurate. You can see videos of people shooting over berms without actually aiming down their sights. So you switch the engagement from being a chicken shoot to
Yeah, but you don't waste too much ammo too.
an actual engagement.
So don't just fire to fire.
As soon as you fire a couple shots in their direction. Suppression saves you. Now moving on to artillery, mortars, RPGs, grenade launchers, pretty much anything explosive. Now instead of the hard armor coming into play, we're going to look at soft armor. So soft armor inserts underneath your plate armor is really going to help seal the deal when it comes to protecting your body and your vital organs, but also pelvic armor. That's something I'm a big believer in. Wearing pelvic armor is going to protect two main arteries that go down your legs, as well as the bones of your pelvis, which are very fragile. We also wear a Kevlar helmet. Kevlar helmets do not stop bullets. 5.56 can go straight through one end, go out the other. It might deflect it a bit, but Kevlar armor is really going to help when it comes to shrapnel, especially smaller shrapnel from mortars or grenades or such. And dispersion. Dispersion is going to be something I say for all of these, spacing yourself out. It's going to prevent a mass casualty scenario. And it might seem counterintuitive because now a single artillery round has a greater chance of injuring somebody because we're so spread out, but staying spread out prevents a mass casualty scenario, which is what we're trying to avoid. Having two guys down in a squad but able to be treated and evacuated is better than half the squad going down, and now you can't treat some people in time, and your security is down because everybody has to help the wounded, and the mission is suddenly and abruptly ended. Going prone. Explosives, especially when they detonate on the ground, are going to orient upwards. If you are prone, you can be much closer to these even larger explosives, like 152mm shells that are landing very, very close to your trench. Just because you're a little bit lower than the artillery shell, you could survive 2 meters away. We've seen videos of this. And that brings us into the next thing, finding subterranean structures. So basements, trenches, dugouts, anything that's underneath the ground is going to help you a lot. You can be a lot closer, and they have to almost directly hit you with that explosive in order to kill you or injure you. So stay low, literally, and that's going to be your best bet. As well as the idea of cover. Always seek cover, especially when there's indirect fire coming in. The next one is distinct.
Listen, he talks a lot, but the most important thing is what kind of battlefield is it? Is it a defensive war? Is it a where you are attacking, offensive? Is it what kind of battle is it? Is it against small groups, against big groups, against the front lines, against what kind is it? What is the objective? What are the other platoons doing and groups? Bro, this guy, I don't know.
Distinguishing the sounds of incoming and outgoing. This is something you can only have by experience in the battlefield, exposure to these different types of weapons. But after a little bit on the front line, I know from first-hand experience, just a month in, you'll be able.
And second of all, you can't just go into buildings and to bunkers and all that. They can be booby trapped. Bro, what?
to distinguish most of the sounds, and it can oftentimes keep you alive. Changing patrol routes if possible, good camouflage, and in general, avoiding detection from drones. We're going to be talking about drones here in a little bit, but changing your routes isn't just to confuse the enemy. It is also because there are things called TRPs, target reference points, and this is specific locations that are already coordinated for artillery, for these drones, for whatever. So when a drone observes you, hopefully you have good camouflage so it doesn't, but if it does observe you and it calls in artillery, if you're not on that intersection, if you're not on that road next to that very identifiable feature that they already marked, they're going to have to start bracketing you. So it's going to give you a couple minutes to find better cover, whereas if you're walking on that well-trodden path, you're going to have a much worse time. They might even hit you on the first round. And obviously micro-terrain, if you go prone and you're in an open field, even just a couple inches of dirt, that can really help you, especially when it comes to these radius type weapons. How do we deal with drones on the battlefield? Well, all of your armor comes into play. The Kevlar helmet, we have the hard armor, the soft armor, and especially the pelvic armor. It's something that I don't really see on many soldiers. I think it's incredibly useful. But some of the things I've seen on the front line, as well as some of my friends are saying, are that the solutions we're creating to deal with FPVs, or these grenades dropped by drones, is just to have a thick blanket door in front of your dugout. That way the FPV slams into it. It can't go all the way down in your basement or wherever you are. And it just gives you that much extra room to be away from that explosive. So having that, or maybe just a thin wire mesh in front of your dugout, it's going to stop these FPVs in their tracks, maybe not even detonate. So that's a big one. Jamming guns, this is something I've seen personally. It's something that is still used to this day. It's going to jam the radio frequency of those drones from the operator, as well as jamming backpacks. And I think that's going to be the future when we look at especially these NATO militaries going into trench warfare, if they ever were to. Jamming backpacks is something I was trained for in the Marine Corps about 8 years ago. We had something called a Thor. It was about a 20 kilo backpack. You wear it, and it's a jammer. So anything in, I think in a 50 meter radius, it's going to block any of the signals in a specific range. And it was specifically for remote controlled IEDs. And it worked very well. We had those on vehicles, and I think that's going to be the future. If we wear jamming backpacks, it's going to make any FPVs within a 50 meter bubble of you lose accuracy. They're not going to be able to get that pinpoint accuracy and flying to your dugout. If you have that thing set up just in your trench system, not even on your person, I think it could help quite a bit. I think that's going to be the future. Or if you're able to, you can operate in an area that already has a high-level jammer, which has a radius of maybe even 3 kilometers. That's going to prevent any of these drones from coming even near you. Going subterranean is going to help you a lot as well. Again, these are dropping grenades. They're dropping RPGs or just explosives. They don't have guns on them yet. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is avoiding detection. So don't take the tracks that they're going to be watching. They only have a certain amount of battery life. They only have a certain level of optics and zoom. So take the routes that are camouflaged. Take the routes that they don't expect you to. They're usually not going to be focusing on the middle of a field where they don't think you're going to be going. So it's just something to think about, as well as shotguns and drone guards. So something that I think NATO militaries are going to incorporate. We already see Ukraine doing this, is having drone guards in their squad. So say a squad is patrolling down, they hear a drone. Everybody drops face down into a piece of cover and lays still, because movement is what the drones see. And then a drone guard can put a scarf over his head, which is going to help him avoid detection. He's looking up to the sky with an oily face with 2 eyes. It's very noticeable from the sky, even from jets way up in the sky. And say he has a shotgun, which allows him to be a little bit less accurate, birdshot or buckshot. You guys know and love Arnie. He was doing a drone mission about a year ago. He came back with this drone after they were shooting at him, but he didn't think he was hit. And his propeller had a bullet hole straight through it. But he was still able to come back. I've crashed my drone, no problem. I think it's really important that we have a shotgun, because we're just not going to be accurate sometimes, especially with these FPVs, to fire directly into the CPU or whatever's powering it. Again, these are explosives, so go prone, look for micro terrain, look for pieces of cover. And one of the top tips for this one, have cross training with an actual drone operator. You should have one within your platoon or at least your company level. Have a quick 1 hour hit bucket class with how he detects Russian soldiers, how he finds them, how he targets them. And from that information, you can carry it with you and change out your gear a little bit. You can change up your camouflage or change how you react to drones just by an hour of talking to some of these guys. The next one is mines. This is the most difficult one, but there's a lot of different types of mines. There's anti-personnel, anti-tank, there's booby traps. Some of the systems we can use to deal with this are mine clearing vehicles or handheld mine sweeping systems. But the top one is movement in a ranger file, going in a single file line. That way you're following in the footsteps. We can see this in videos where Russians are going in giant columns towards Avdiivka. They all end up getting destroyed, but the lead vehicle gets hit by mine. Everybody else is alive still. but they orient off. They panic, they orient off that ranger file, and they all blow up from mines. So staying in that one single track is really going to help you. But in general, you want to avoid certain areas. You want to watch out for signaling structures. It's like a building on the side of a road, an intersection. You want to avoid these things, or at least be very careful. This is where they're going to plant mines. When I was in the Marine Corps, they taught us something very, very important that I kept with me through all these different war zones, which is take the path of most resistance. Take the path that they don't think you would ever go down, because that's where they're not going to plant mines. That's not where they're going to plant ambushes. That's not where they're going to be looking with a drone. They don't believe you're going to go through there. So go through there. Another way to survive this is when you're doing patrols, maybe a routine patrol, maybe you're just going to and from a location, you should mark those mines, at least with a GPS coordinate, give it to a commander. And even before going on a mission, you should ask the commanders, are there any mines in the area? Oftentimes they'll tell you where these mines are, where they have suspected mines, what kind of mines. All this information is extremely valuable, but nothing is more valuable than dispersion. Mass casualty scenarios are the worst thing in the world. You do not want to get into that situation. So disperse yourself. If somebody loses a leg from a mine, you're going to have 2 guys carry them at least. But if you have 2 guys down, now you have 6 guys down. You know what I mean? And beyond mines, we have fixed wing and rotary aircraft. In general, fixed wing are going to be dropping bombs, and helicopters will use both guided missiles, unguided rockets, and even a gun. The training that I got from the Marines is honestly terrible. It's very outdated, where they say to lay vertical to a jet because of strafing runs and horizontal for a helicopter for some other reason. But from Iraq and Ukraine, I learned quite a bit, and our reaction was largely based off of staying away from valuable targets. If they know where your base is, you want to stay away from that if there's a jet in the area. In general, these jets are not able to get too close to the front line because of stingers and iglas and strelas, which are another factor. So they're going to stay away from the battlefield. They're not going to be observing. They're just going to be launching these bombs on pre-designated targets that the drone found for them, that the intel on the ground found for them. Make sure to camouflage the vehicles and expensive equipment. Again, dispersion, incredibly important. And also something you might not think about, stay in the lower levels. If you're in a building, if you're on the roof, that's where the missile's gonna hit. They're not gonna hit the basement. They're not gonna hit the first level. It's gonna be hitting on top, especially when it comes to artillery. And this moves us into cruise missiles and Shaheds. These are combined with other aerial threats, but various anti-air systems are in place in the rear to intercept them. Infantry don't usually have anything to worry about this, but good OPSEC and good camouflage, having a good NCO Corps that says, hey, don't stay outside too long. Hey, get your cigarette in the trash. Don't throw it out. You don't want people to know where you're living. You don't want them to think that it's important, because if it's important, they're going to bomb it. So use camouflage netting. Don't throw trash everywhere. And again, stay in the lower levels, subterranean if possible. Just disperse. Take some BMPs. We all know how to deal with those things. Rockets, missiles, we have javelins, MLAWs, we have all these different things, mines, and even FPVs are extremely effective. So these tanks and BMPs are well known on how to destroy them. Just make sure that you have cross-training in each of these weapon systems. Everybody in the squad should know how to use every weapon system. In my opinion, it takes about 5 minutes to know how to operate the javelin. It takes about 5 minutes to learn how to use the NLAW. All these systems can be learned, and if you train just an hour a day on each of these things in a week, everybody should know how to use these weapon systems at the very basic knowledge. Again, we're dealing with explosives largely, so dispersion, going prone when you know that they're near, when they're firing at you, and going subterranean. Having trenches, having these dugouts. In these trench systems, you're going to have freedom of movement, where the tank doesn't have eyes on you as you're moving. So then you can have the assaultman flank a little bit, get a nice side hit on it. There's all sorts of different ways to deal with it. And I'm not going to talk about it too much because this is a land-based target. Land-based targets are what the infantry are made for. They all have weapon systems to deal with these things, and it's something that every infantryman should be trained on. Oftentimes, with all the threats that I mentioned here, the most important thing is to not be observed. Have good camouflage, have a good drone guard, because what's going to observe you isn't usually going to be the forward observer. It is going to be a drone. These things are everywhere. They are looking for you. They have good optics. But at the end of the day, we made those optics. We made those drones. We made the weapon systems to take them on. And we made the training and the protocols to deal with these things. Humans are a lot smarter, and we can find solutions to deal with anything, as we learned here today. So make it harder to distinguish how many of you there are, what your capabilities are, and what routes you take. All these things come into play when it comes to avoiding detection. So all in all, from what I can tell, there are 3 vital things that you need to keep in mind to survive on the battlefield. The first one is working in small recon teams before an assault. So if you're going to be assaulting an objective, you need to have some intelligence on it. You have to gain some on-the-ground info. And you shouldn't be sending a platoon out there. You should send 3 to 4 man teams. Why? Because it's not going to trigger an immense response. And it's also not going to trigger a buildup of forces that are expecting a large attack. It's harder to locate and hard to dedicate large amounts of munitions on a 3 to 4 man team during a patrol rather than 30 guys and 2 BMPs. The second, having basic infantryman training. Knowing the weapon systems, how they work in the grand scheme of things, and knowing what the mission is before going on it so the momentum is held as you conduct that mission. Dispersion, camouflage, going prone, communication. All these things come into play, and it's something you can do in 2 months. I think 2 months for somebody who has a lot of morale can learn pretty much everything he needs to know to get to the battlefield and survive his first couple engagements before he gains that exposure to the battlefield and knows the sounds and how to deal with different threats. This is...
Let me tell you how it is. Losing men, that's... If men are lost, it's the general's fault. It's because he hasn't made his homework. Bro, we got satellites now. We got everything. We got everything documented. Listen, you know where the troop is, you know where they're going, you know where the shit, when they're shitting, when they're eating, when they're getting deliveries, when they're getting supplies. So all this reconnaissance, that shouldn't even be necessary, honestly. Reconnaissance is unnecessary. Bro, America got satellites, Russia got satellites, reconnaissance, I don't know why they even do it. And the small groups, yeah, that's a waste of time in a battle, in a big battle. Small groups. You need big groups. You need to know where to the defensive lines is, where you need to break through, where you need to surround them, where you need to have different multiple breaking points you can use. Bro, NATO don't know how to fight. America definitely don't know how to fight. Russia don't know how to fight. All this Russia, Ukraine is just a waste of manpower. It's just cannon fodder. Because if you just push one good push, it's all done.
Going to keep them alive up until then, and that is why I consider that extremely vital. And the third one is a good NCO Corps to instill discipline. Complacency is the biggest threat, more so than the tanks, more so than the jets and drones. Complacency, yourself, and how you act on the battlefield is the greatest threat to everybody around you, including yourself. So it is the sergeant's job to give you the discipline to survive. To survive is not fun. It is not something that's enjoyable. A lot of times you feel like dying when you're on patrol, when you're in this trench system. The sergeant needs to make sure that you're not throwing trash everywhere, you are putting on good camouflage, you're keeping your weapon clean, you're not staying outdoors when you hear that drone go over you for the millionth time, having OPSEC accounted for, and the soldiers' morale high and prepared and trained for the next mission. Also, Faraday bags. Faraday bags are going to block any communication that you have on your phone. So I would definitely recommend a Faraday bag, at least one in every team, but everybody can have one. It's kind of inexpensive. You can make it yourself as well. You can have it as your dump pouch. Because look, soldiers don't see everything around them. There's a million things that are invisible to us as humans. There's infrared imaging that we can't see. There's these drones that have optics that can zoom in super close. There's radio frequencies. All these things are happening around that soldiers can't see.
And I don't understand, if the drones is such a big problem, then why don't you just make tunnel warfare? Yeah, it takes a lot of time to dig out the tunnels and all this, but after you dig them out, bro, nobody's gonna go over and take that area. If you take it, you can make ambushes all the time. So I don't understand why not just forget about trench warfare when you have drones. It doesn't make sense. You might as well just make a tunnel warfare. Bro, those generals are dumb.
Can't blame these soldiers who aren't the brightest bunch to know what's happening around them invisibly. Have Faraday bags anytime that you don't need to use your phone. Hey, phone in the Faraday bag. Let's get that signal out of there. That way you're not going to be tracked as well. OPSEC is going to be better. You're not going to be targeted by all sorts of munitions because they know exactly where you are if you bring your phone. It's just something I want to mention. Oh, and another big one, it's a given. Tourniquets, bandages, training on each of them. Because again, luck, fate, anything you want to call it, that is what's going to determine if...
There's no luck, there's no faith in a battle. Listen, as a good general said one time, he said only stupid people die in the battlefield. And that's actually how it is. If you're stupid, you're gonna die.
If you survive or not, a lot of times. Almost every friend that I know out there that's been there 2 years has been hit. There's simply nothing you can do at times. The job is dirty, it's dangerous, and you will get hit if you do the job long enough. Knowing medical skills is vital. So to end this all, the threats are going to change. There's always going to be new systems and new revolutionary breakthroughs to kill humans. Always will be, always have been. But as the instructor I had for mines in the YPG 5 years ago told me, the human brain created all these things. All these millions of dollars of equipment that is targeting you, we made it. The human mind. And we can find the solution. We can figure it out. The human mind is the most powerful weapon. It's something you need to keep in mind. Never let go of your intuition. Never let go of your intelligence and what you can bring to the table, no matter who you are. If you have enough morale, enough knowledge, and enough grit to fix problems, you will find a solution. So if I missed anything, let me know down in the comments.
This guy just admitted to being a mercenary. What the fuck?
If you have any ideas, the human mind solution. So if I missed anything, let me know down in the comments. If you have any ideas, I'm willing to listen to it. Put in the comments. I'm very curious what we can come up with. We have all seen the horrors of war, either in person or online. And as we learned here today, there are a million ways to mitigate these threats. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I hope you learned something. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, bro, he don't know what he's talking about. Listen, first of all, you never go into area without getting debriefed around everything. Troop movement, where the troops are, how many troops, everything. You need to know everything. You have the card, you get shown by where everybody is. This is what you don't attack just to attack. You need to do not reconnaissance, but you have to gather information about everything before you make an attack. I don't know what this guy is talking about, all this. Yeah. That's why they're losing and winning and losing over there, because they don't got great generals. The way it's run, it's a shit show, actually. It sounds like a shit show. They don't know what to do. So, if I were you, don't listen to this guy. You ain't gonna survive. See you guys next time.